All right. So why don't you go ahead and just kind of introduce yourself, your position, maybe give a little background of, NZXT, yourself, how you started.
Yeah.
Just a quick overview.
Oh, okay.
Of your position and.
Yeah. I'm Johnny Ho. I'm the founder and CEO of NZXT. Started the business about 20 years ago. I was 19 at the time. So we just made computer cases then.
Yeah. Is the audio good? Because I know he's kind of quiet.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
No, it's fine, you're fine.
Do you want to open the jacket a little bit more so that it doesn't rub on the microphone?
Oh, is it rubbing? I just think it's so, I'm like, this is so, make sure I just take off the
No, you're
jacket.
fine. Whatever's comfortable for you, just so that way the zipper's not touching the dead cat on there.
Put the mic on the jacket too if you want.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can do that.
Let me try that. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Is that weird? I don't know.
This is such a informal type of video, so as long as we're getting the audio, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter how it
that's
looks.
kind of what I mean. It's the audio. Okay, cool.
Is that good?
That'll work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so just I reached out to you via email. We didn't get a response. So I just want to clarify for the audience, Johnny did get back to me. He showed me screenshots that my email was filtered into spam.
Yeah.
There's been some staff turnover recently at NZ. Sorry, I had a reminder that you were coming right there. So there was some staff turnover and communications kind of been wonky the last few months.
Yeah,
so I just wanted to point that out that you did obviously reach back to me.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for this interview. I 100% did not expect this to take place, to be honest. But I figured I have to at least try because, as you're aware, there's a lot of concerns, in the industry, not just with NZXT, but industry-wide, with the way things have kind of been over the last 4 years with so many different brands and such.
Yeah.
So the purpose of today's meeting is the topic at hand I want to stick to is specifically concerns with the Flex program. And I do want to lean into a little bit on the layoffs.
Yeah.
I do want to discuss the layoffs a little bit.
Yeah.
So the first question I have before we get to that is, can you explain the relationship between NZXT and Fragile?
Yeah.
Who owns Fragile? Are they independent?
No,
Just kinda explain
totally
that.
independent company. But let me just break it down a little bit because
Okay.
I don't think it's obvious. So NZXT, so we are the brand in front of Flex, the program, and it's our products, right? And then we're responsible for generating the marketing behind it. And when you subscribe to Flex, at that moment, Fragile goes through an underwriting process to make sure there's no risk and everything, blah, blah, blah. And then they will actually purchase the PCs from us, from NZXT. And at that point, the PCs then get sent from one of our production facility, it's a third party, right, to the end user. So that's kind of how, and at that point.
So Fragile's really a broker at this point, kind of?
Well, now the relationship is now moved over to Fragile, right? Because Fragile has now purchased it from us, and that relationship is between that customer and Fragile. But we're, it's an end-to-end experience, right? But if an issue comes up on their end, we know about it, we're all linked up, right? And when you go to checkout, you actually see the Fragile logo.
We see that. That's interesting though, because pretty much all of the forward-facing language really makes it look like it is a direct relationship between the consumer and the operator being NZXT.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and because we're the brand in front of it, it's easy, right, for people to assume that it's all on us. But it's easy to assume because that's the way it's sort of been engineered. Oh.
So, I guess.
Yeah, their strength is we're not underwriting. We're not good at it, nor do we want to be in the business of underwriting and kind of doing all of that. So we found a partner that specializes in doing the underwriting and kind of there's a whole kind of the PCs coming back and this refurbishment, that's kind of what they're focused on in terms of business model, right?
I've got I'll come to it in a minute, but I've got a kind of a consumer feedback from a customer. Actually found it on Reddit. This is about 3 months old.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty recent experience.
Yeah.
On what that process was like going through Fragile with warranty issues.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that in a moment.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, and this is gonna be an uncomfortable question, but the decision to lay off a team via Discord, that's never a good look. What was the idea behind that? Because the screenshots that were shown.
That was a Slack.
Or I'm sorry, Slack.
That was Slack.
It just seems so impersonal.
Yeah, so it definitely, well, Ivan's here, but I don't want to point to Ivan, but that was, I want to make sure I'm saying factual. But like that was actually trying to inform people in advance, like explain why.
How much notice was there between that notification and when the terminations were expected to be enforced?
I mean, I think, I don't know. I mean, with that move, I mean, so when we make those announcements, we then have like conversations with people. Like with that team, people flew in and sat down with people and talked them through the decision. It was not like we do layoffs just like any other company. When we do, there's always a verbal conversation.
No, the purpose of that was, you talked about the outsourcing of building these systems for Fragile and Flex. So was that...
No, that has nothing to do with it. That was like separate. Yeah, that moving to Premio, who was his partner,
okay.
Had very little to do with this Fragile thing. So
what was the timeline on that? How long ago was it, the layoffs?
And the layoffs and our transition from moving in-house production to Premio was first half of, like I would say, like officially happened about Q1, Q2 of this year.
Of this year.
And
okay.
and if it's okay to provide some context,
no,
like last year, we could not meet SLAs. It was terrible. Like customers who bought like PCs from us during like after Thanksgiving, like waited a month, over a month, because we couldn't deliver.
In 23?
Yeah,
okay.
like we didn't get them till like January. Like it's not been easy for us to meet these Black Friday demands.
And that was after the move from industry to Monrovia?
No, that was before.
That was
still in that facility, and then just like we've had a lot of operational challenges. And if you think about like zoom out, like we don't own our case supplier, we don't own our water cooling suppliers, and we've really struggled to ramp up and quality, and we found like this partner really like has frankly much better systems than we had. And so right now, like we're the week after Black Friday and Cyber Monday, 5-day SLA. Like it's like never in the history of NZXT to be able to deliver a PC after Black Friday. And the quality, we have metrics, has been better actually.
And you said the company's called Premio?
Premio, they're actually here.
I was asking if they're
they're in City of Industry, and actually they build for a ton of other brands. I don't want to speak to brands, but
okay,
a lot of brands.
So they are a third party builder for more than just one SI.
Yeah, but we're probably like we and them have like a strategic relationship. Like we decided, hey, we're on the same boat. We're gonna integrate. So NZXT actually has a ton of ex-employees there who are actually the same folks who were here.
I was going to ask if there was any sort of
100%
job placement assistance.
because they need to ramp up their volumes to take on our volumes. So like, hey, there's these jobs that were created for the folks to go there. Not everyone stayed on, but there are folks there. I'm not going to speak for them. If you want to talk to the folks who are at Premio, who are ex-NZXT employees, who are looking out for the quality of NZXT.
So just so I understand, then that relationship is separate from Flex. Flex is Fragile.
Yeah, these are just totally different. Like Fragile, one thing. Premio was something we did earlier this year. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just out of morbid curiosity of my own. Then, so Fragile isn't really set up to handle just straight up SI builds, direct sales.
No. They're light refurbishment, I would say. Yeah.
All right.
And most of the builds going on are actually brand new. I would say 80+%.
Prior to this interview, obviously I've got questions and notes and things I want to go off of. I tried to get some clarity as somebody that's not a subscriber to Flex about what, there's obviously a frequently asked questions page or some stuff.
Yep.
It's behind a login. Are you aware that you can't get to the Flex frequently asked questions page without creating an NZXT account?
There's the...
No, I'm not talking about the little drop downs. I'm talking about there's an actual page, and it loads for a split second. You can see it, and then you're forced to a login.
Oh.
What's the reasoning behind forcing someone to create an account just to get questions and answers?
Honestly, I don't think there's really good reasoning, and
because I think with all the discussion about the previous agreement, which I notice has been removed, about the user data.
because we just want to make that super clear.
Because that sort of bolsters the idea that
there's
data is being
you're
sold.
Potentially like. There's some stuff you're willing to show, like on the PDP and PDP, you know what I mean, right? Like on the product page, right? Because at the bottom of the Flex page, I guess I'm just trying to clarify. You're saying that like when you put that beyond a login, it creates the perception that like maybe these are things that you don't want people to see.
From a consumer perspective, the moment you put your email in something, you're gonna get whether it be newsletter, spam, whatever, you're gonna get something.
You feel like you're signing up.
So. From a consumer perspective, it's a real put off to think like, I want to learn about this program, but I have to create an account to learn. So I think I would highly suggest the FAQ be put forward facing without a login required.
Yeah, unless it's like illegal to do it, which I hope not. I'm committing stuff on camera, but like I don't see any reason why we wouldn't pull that.
Well, we'll talk about EULAs and legalities in a second.
Which I'm not, just so you know, I'm like a
no, I understand, but obviously as CEO, you are a stopping point. Like the buck stops
get it.
with either you or the board, whichever, right?
I get it.
So yeah, I couldn't even prepare some of the questions I wanted based on that fact, only because I couldn't access it, and I refused to create an account just to access it.
Yeah.
Kind of on a matter of principle on this one,
Yeah, and I get it.
given the trust break with just the verbiage that existed in the agreement prior to the changes. So I do have some points that were brought up in Gamers Nexus video here. I think it's important to note there's been no communication between Steve and I regarding any of this.
Okay.
This isn't like a unified front. This isn't like a, hey, what should I ask him? This is me independently using Gamers Nexus video as a point of information to try and get some clarity on. Some of it you've already addressed, either the blog or your quick explainer that you put out yesterday. So Steve found that some computers you sell have different parts from rental options versus, so not all of the pre-builts have a flex option, which I've noticed.
Yep.
The ones that have flex options show a subscription button.
Yep.
Now, in kind of comparing the parts changes that happens when you select that button in his video that went live on, I believe it was Sunday.
Yep.
And now I've noticed they're not changing like they were. I've noticed 4090 is not an option anymore at all. I'm assuming that's probably a stock availability and maybe current pricing issue there.
And you're referring to a pre-built, or you're talking about the flex side?
Well, both, because some of the pre-builts you're looking at will show purchase or subscription.
Yeah, and I think this is probably an opportunity to say first. I don't. Maybe I didn't clarify on this. I like totally own it, and I'm sorry that like it came off as we were seemingly trying to trick the customer, and it was absolutely not the intent. Our PCs were called like player PCs, and we thought like try to keep it consistent. Probably like wrong decision in retrospect.
Was there a name change since this weekend till now?
Yeah.
Because I noticed it doesn't say player anymore.
We just like
it says
drop
Flex.
player altogether.
It says Flex 3, Flex 2.
Like we don't want you to be confused what's going to happen, because it's so different, right? Like renting and subscribing to a PC is so different than buying and owning a PC. So we dropped it to improve that clarity, and there's more we can do, but it's not something I can do in just like a couple of days, right?
From a personal standpoint, I don't think it's abnormal for a company to have different options as a rental versus a purchase. I think the main issue stood from the fact that the moment you selected the subscription, parts changed without a notification that, hey, the parts that were on the page you were just at are now different.
I think there's absolutely room for him to improve that, and because in that subscription-based business model, ultimately it's like a pool of PCs, right? And the reason why we show an older spec is because we don't want you to get like something that's like the older spec. So, but more than often, you're actually getting the current spec, because we don't have that many of the old ones, right? So we say it's the older.
Do you notify the customer before the system is built? Hey, these parts are not available. This is what we have. Do you agree to the current subscription with what we have?
If we've changed it, so we actually went and pulled up we called every single customer, especially with that scenario where the 4090, 4080 Super, we called them and let them know, hey, like that GPU went out of stock. That subscription fee has also reflected, but are you still okay with it? And we have recordings. I can share some with you.
Can you clarify on what you mean by the subscription fee changed? Because what was shown was that the price stayed the same, but the part changed. That's what was shown in Gamers Nexus expose.
Yeah, I think it would drop down to actually 259, 240, 249. And we actually called them. There was like we told them to tell them mostly about the spec change, and then the price changed as well, because we actually did have customers that are like, wait, is the price going to be the same? Like, no, that's why it's gone down by like, I think $40 or $50. And I have. Like,
and I couldn't verify. I want to point out I couldn't verify any of that today because I wanted to play with the options. That's why I mentioned I noticed the 4090 is not an option anymore at all.
Yeah, it's just supply. I mean, you probably know this better than anyone.
Well, yeah, I mean they're going for up to $3,000 a piece right now. So this is kind of an on-the-fly question. What about folks that already have the 4090 at the current subscription price? Steve showed that there were price changes in his subscription. Are you guys, because of the availability and the current pricing of 4090s, are you now increasing the subscription cost for those that are already existing?
No. Like as I mentioned during the video, we would never do something like I think it's okay to say like Netflix, whatever, Spotify. I think over the years it's gone up, but like that's not what would ever do here. In fact, maybe it's more likely over years we try to figure out a way to drive it down.
Can you explain why Steve's subscription went up $10 without notification?
Yeah, so there's this thing with local taxes like Nexus. So remember, right, that it's a Fragile, their relationship with Fragile. So Fragile basically reached a point where they need to start charging state taxes. So we sent emails to customers and said, hey, we need to start charging you state taxes, in your next billing cycle. Are you having questions? Let us know, and da-da-da. And at that point in time, like, obviously you can cancel, like, with no charge and everything. But, like, we did inform people there was, like, increase due to sales taxes, and that was, like, the only time. Now you would change if you upgrade. Like, you say, hey, I want the Player 3. Obviously, like, your subscription.
Right. The only scenario I can speak to, because, again, I don't have firsthand experience with the program, was seeing the billing cycle for Gamers Nexus go up by $10. There was no mention in this video about receiving notification of a price increase. So, are we to assume that either he didn't get it or he missed it?
No, I mean I think he definitely got it. There was like an email exchange, like acknowledging that they got the email.
Or have you verified that email was sent?
Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, to my knowledge, yes. And we've looked at the email.
Okay. Because I can.
And it's not just him, right? Like, we send it to everyone. Everyone this past year, a lot of states went through this whole process where we got past that point.
The reason why I'm bringing this up is I rewatched this video again today, so I have some clarification on making sure I'm wording some of this right. Yeah. The $10 increase did not come with an explanation.
Oh, it absolutely did.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not for everyone. For everyone. Not just him. Right?
How much notice was given on the price increase for the states that are required to start charging tax on subscriptions?
Yeah, I want to say it was at least 1 month in advance. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically enough time for you to say, you know what, I don't like this. The $10 increase, give me a cancel.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and move on. Is there some sort of arrangement or agreement that allows a price lock for the rental program? So that kind of ties into this.
Yeah.
I went through the entire agreement.
Oh,
I could not find any verbiage that either allows or disallows on-the-fly price changes. So to clarify, I couldn't find any language that said you're locked in at this price until either the operator or the consumer or the customer, right? Operator being NZXT/Fragile, or the customer ending the agreement.
Yeah.
So I couldn't find any language that either protected or allowed price changes to happen. What is the actual policy then regarding price changes? Let's say, for instance, I have a $159 a month subscription.
Yep.
Barring anything that legally requires you to change,
like
you just explained,
yeah.
Is that price infinite?
Like locked in forever?
Let's say somebody, which is a terrible idea, wanted to rent this PC for 5 years.
Yes, it's a terrible idea.
That price would be the 5-year price?
It would definitely not go up. But it would be a terrible idea to your point. And if you were locked in for 5 years, you would have at least gotten 2 upgrades, right? And I think we're exploring options where let's say you really like your PC and you don't want the upgrades, maybe there's a way we can give you a discount at that moment.
Well, that was
you
my
opt out,
thoughts,
right? You opt out or something, right?
I have program suggestions in here. One of the things that my team and I believe in is reconciliation. We believe problems can be solved, no matter how bad they are. Obviously, the parties involved have to be willing to really listen to feedback.
Yeah.
I think right now the feedback's very loud.
Yeah.
I feel like it's difficult right now to really sift through toxic feedback, but there's real feedback here that can be had.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest ones being able to buy out the PC. We'll move on to that in a moment, because I know that crosses lines between NZXT at this point being a lender.
Yep.
Versus a service provider.
For Fragile. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Because that's the major confusion here is you're absorbing
a lot
of all of the responsibility because it's your name on the service that's being sold.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't want to I'm not throwing this is it's a partnership. We brought them together to launch this service, so I don't want to say we had no clue or anything and throw them under the bus, right? So.
Okay, so let's see.
But you're right. The relationship is between Fragile and the customer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on because I have a question I want to formulate regarding that. There's one thing I mentioned. You talked about legality of agreements. Obviously, I'm sure you watched Steve's entire expose.
Yeah.
Probably went through it and made notes.
Yeah.
Regarding the legal discussion with the lawyer.
Yeah.
Talked about the agreement being very dangerous for the consumer.
Yeah.
There's 3 parts here I sort of highlighted that I want to go over and have some questions. So for instance, the agreement, there's a portion in the agreement that states, operator reserves the right to modify this agreement at any time. Subscriber is responsible for regularly reviewing these terms and modifications thereto. Notification requirements and opt-out procedures related to modifications to this agreement are detailed below. There's a line in there that concerns me, and it says that it's on the consumer to check back for changes. Now, I did look this up. All 50 states in the US require agreement notifications to be sent to end users.
Yeah.
This verbiage makes it sound like it's on the consumer to check back about any
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah.
Now, changes could be anything. You guys decide like, oh, there's an appreciation value. The 4090 went up in cost. We're going to raise your rate $20 a month, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I was saying there's no protection either
Yeah.
way from that.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about consumer protection here, again, I did not subscribe to the service, but Steve is claiming there was no notification of a price increase. You're saying yes, there was. Can you confirm that any agreements to or any changes to the agreement
Will be
are
sent.
also notified to the customer with time to either opt out or to, because there's another mention in here where the customer can actually disagree to it, which is consumer friendly, and I'm appreciative of that, and I'll read that for you in a second. But the language here is dangerous in that it's putting the responsibility on the end user to check for changes.
Yeah.
And all 50 states require that it be the opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean, we will certainly send these notices to people to review, right? I think I don't want to get into a world where I'm actually trying to play the role of a lawyer, but I imagine it may be around like the consumer has to read it. But and this is the legal document between Fragile and end customer. But what I would say is like if the assumption is we're going to change the agreement and like not tell the consumer, and if they don't check it, then it's on them. I don't think that's like what we're after, and 100% we need to notify.
Yeah, because consumer protection laws are written in such a way that you can change it. You have to make a notification of it.
Yeah.
And then the consumer has X amount of time to either opt out or dispute. And then a non-response at that point is considered acceptance.
Yeah.
As long as we're not looking at this going, we made a change on the website, you didn't check it, therefore you accepted it.
Yeah.
Because right now, your current language, and I would highly recommend that you maybe have somebody look into
100%.
this, is definitely putting the onus on the consumer,
Yeah.
which is backwards legally.
We will absolutely take a look.
Because it goes on to state, by accepting the agreement, subscriber acknowledges that any and all future subscription orders placed by subscriber shall be bound by the terms outlined in this agreement, and including any and all modifications to this agreement or superseding agreement. So basically, this is saying by you being a subscriber, you're automatically accepting any agreement changes we make now or in the future. This is a hot potato of liability, right? So I just highly recommend that this language really be looked at clearly.
Yeah, like, I mean, in the end of the day, like, if we surprise our customers and it's a bad surprise, they're angry, like, it all is like a vicious loop back into something that hurts NZXT. It's not something we would ever want. So we definitely need to take a look to make sure that those things don't happen, but it's definitely not our intent, right? Because it hurts us in the end. Why would we do that?
There's a lot of companies I could say, why did you do that?
Why would we do that? And then there's we're dumb. We made a mistake. You know what I mean?
I think what happens is some companies regularly kind of move the goalpost or push the boundaries, and eventually it's not until you look back and go, wow, look how far we've come in an anti-consumer direction, like when somebody finally points this
Yeah,
out, and then
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, oh no, we messed up. But
Yeah.
because
Like
I mean,
that's-
as you can imagine, I'm sure almost all correspondence right now, whether it be your video or the blog
Oh, I
post or
know.
whatever, is all just viewed as damage control.
Yeah. I mean,
And to be fair, it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
It is damage control, whether it be due to misunderstandings or missteps by the company.
Yeah. And to be fair to like Steve's video and everything, there's like legit stuff like we have to do a lot better at. And like I take these opportunities always. I wouldn't call it. It's all as like I need to learn. We need to learn. We need to do a lot better, right? But the intent isn't to how do we, to your point, push the boundaries of not
Yeah.
like not letting customers know and taking more advantage of it.
I do want to at least give some credit to the agreement. There is one portion in here that, and it's important that consumers read this stuff. Whereas everyone's so used to just clicking accept and moving on. But this is why it's important for people to read this sort of stuff, because at least in the agreement it does state, operator may modify this agreement at any time by posting a revised version at, and then the Fragile website. The modifications will be, 1, will be effective when posted for all new subscriptions, or 2, effective immediately within 30 days. If this subscription is active, when the operator modifies this agreement, subscriber may provide a written objection to the operator, so long as such modification is not yet effective. Upon such notification, subscriber shall not be bound by the modified agreement, and the previously effective agreement shall remain in full force and effect. So that's like the one consumer positive in this agreement, is a customer can say, no, I don't agree to this, as long as they submit it in writing within 30 days.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest problems, though, is if you actually really audit the customer service for Fragile, which is reflecting on NZXT,
Yeah.
it's bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad. Weeks without responses to emails, or needing to force escalate things to management to get something to happen. And like I said, there's one really kind of a gross story I want you to be aware of, because if it's taking them weeks to reply, then this becomes a problem.
Yeah,
If it's a
yeah.
time sensitive issue.
Yeah, and like we don't need to sit here and share data points, like, and I'm just going to use NZXT as an example. Like NZXT, I think generally our CSAT scores are pretty high, NPS scores are pretty high. Even with these high scores, stuff happens. You're gonna have those couple people, and I don't know, kind of like the like this example specifically. It sounds like it's pretty bad, but like I would be more than happy to share the statistics, if you will, the data around the types of experience most people have had, and it doesn't cover for the terrible experience, right?
We're not
Yeah, you know what I mean,
naive to
like-
think that all companies are perfect or expect perfection.
Yeah.
It is, when there's a misstep, it's how is it handled. That's the reputation build or the trust
Absolutely.
break.
Yeah.
It's not. It probably takes 20 or 30 positive stories to undo one really bad negative.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah,
in business.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Do you want to respond to the broken link for the cancellation that Steve experienced regarding? It's my understanding it was a translation error for the link.
Yeah. We talked to Fragile, checked into it. It looks like at the end of the link there's 2 asterisks. If you moved it, it was a working link, and from their end, what they sent was a working link. So I don't want to get into technicalities, but when they checked that exact send, it was a working link. But
It's fair to assume that if someone's renting a PC, they may not be very savvy. Therefore, that was probably I wouldn't assume somebody renting a PC would know to maybe check the URL to find.
No,
an
yeah,
error
I
in
wouldn't
there.
assume that. That'd be the wrong assumption either. But like when they checked from there and when it was sent out, it was absolutely like not a broken link, and certainly I know what it looks like, right? It looks like, oh, you're actually trying to like increase like the barrier, make it hard to cancel. And
Which is
it's
par for the
code.
course on many
I get it.
subscriptions that make it very difficult to cancel.
Yeah, I get it, right? Because I subscribe to stuff and I'm like, wow, I have to jump through all these hoops, and then the UI is actually hard and it makes you click different things. But that's not, again, like, I mean, I think the intent of NZXT, and if people believe me, is like we're not trying to, we don't wake up every day trying to like screw customers, right?
I want to talk about more of the cancellation stuff.
Yeah.
These are my own questions based on reading the agreement and the frequently asked questions I could see, because again, the main fact is behind the login.
And going back to, I really think it's super good, like note there to bring that stuff to the
It should
the
be,
front.
because you're
It's-
not to harp on that again, but you're trying to address potential customers,
Yeah.
and that should be
100%.
100%
You're right.
upfront
Yeah.
information
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you don't
yeah,
have to
absolutely.
give information
Absolutely.
to see. Let's see. So the agreement states that the customer will not be refunded for any unused time left in the subscription. So to clarify, if I were to cancel in day 16 of the month, I've paid for the whole month. If I return it on the 16th, I'm not getting a refund for that extra time. There's no prorate. That makes perfect sense. My question is, it says, I'm wondering, there's a 7-day return period that you have from the moment you say, I'm going to cancel the subscription.
Yeah.
I now have 7 days to return the PC.
Pack up everything and return it.
Is that 7 days bound separately from the subscription? And what I mean by that is if I were to cancel, say, on the 29th, and I get a notification I'm going to cancel it, and I have 7 days to return it with the label provided by, I assume it's Fragile at that point.
Yeah.
And it rolls over into the next month.
Yeah.
Will I be charged that next month, or will the subscription go on hold until the PC is returned?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I want to try to provide an answer, but I want to make sure I have the right to at least double check. But like, I would imagine.
The reason why I'm asking is because it does very strongly explicitly state there are no refunds for any reason.
Yes. And, yeah.
So
Yeah,
if it was to roll over and you charge the monthly,
like I would imagine, let's say you say you're going to cancel, but you end up like not packing it up. It's whatever, 3 weeks in, you just like, I just forgot.
after 7 days, I would assume if it's not received, the subscription continues.
You continue.
I'm
Exactly.
just asking for clarification if it goes on pause in that 7 day
Oh, yeah,
period, if it's a rollover into another
Yeah,
month.
you're not going to be charged. I mean, for those 7 days, you're saying will you get prorated and charged for those 7 days? Is that what
No,
you're
no.
saying?
I assume if you don't return within the 7 days, the subscription continues active. But if I cancel at the end of a month, in that 7 day window rolls over the first of the next month, will there be an automatic charge, or will the charge go on hold until the PC is outside the 7 day window and hasn't been
To my
returned?
knowledge, I don't think so. Once we know you're canceling, like we assume you're not going to roll over. Right?
Okay.
We're waiting for we're basically at that point now waiting to receive the PC.
Okay,
right?
that was just a question that I had because
Yeah.
I've seen it before where
Yeah. But
the
if-
return window is included in the month. So, for instance, you would lose 7 days.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're paying for the full month,
Yeah, you
that
should
would be a
have the
problem.
entire month. I
Okay.
totally agree.
All right, I just wanted a clarification on that. Okay, the free monitor keyboard mouse bundle that was free, but the subscription had raised $10 prior to the free bundle.
Yeah.
Comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can use a separate example that's similar. Like MSRPs move. Sometimes like you do heavier discount. You do no discounts, but instead of a discount, you do like a free mice or mouse mat. Like it's kind of different ways of promoting the product, but it isn't like it isn't intended to trick you. Like you know what the price is, you know the value that you're gonna get, but like you can choose not to, right? You can choose like, hey, it's not really worth the bundle. And some of the pricing changes on that specific build was related to some spec changes, I think. It wasn't exactly related to the bundle.
But you acknowledge that the timing looks bad.
Yeah.
It went up $10 exactly at the same time the free bundle was offered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. And I also think there was a whole other conversation on Black Friday pricing change over a period of time.
It changed many times in a 24-hour period alone, three times. And the price went up every time, showing a slashed on sale.
Yeah. And we have, price matching, I think up to 14 days. So
But how do you quantify price match on a rental PC?
Oh, I was talking about the Black Friday.
You're talking about the purchases.
Previous. Remember there's a whole kind of
right.
noting the Black Friday deals we're running on our traditional PCs.
Because at the end from the beginning of that whole weekend, the same PC was $150 more at the end of the weekend, showing it was on sale.
Yeah.
So I think,
like if you somehow saw the lowest price and you wanted the lowest price that weekend, you just call us up and we'll do a price match, right?
That's not very clear to the customer though that option even exists.
Yeah, I actually just talked to Team to make sure that's like super clear. We have a price match policy.
Because really, it looks like the way it went down publicly, because that's what we have to go off of.
Yeah, I know.
It looks an awful lot like NZXT couldn't make up its mind on pricing, and at the end, it chose let's charge more.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would say part of having an e-commerce shop is you're also like learning like dang, that deal did not land at all, right? And so like we got to go heavier or whatever, right? So, and that's why I think those.
Well, usually in that instance, though, someone discounts deeper, not charges more.
Yeah, I think it was related to maybe supply. There was like very little supply left, that weekend, and we like literally had no more left. So it's like, well, try to make the most of it versus discounting it further. And like
I mean, making the most of it. That sounds bad.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay.
I totally get it. We had very little supply over a weekend.
Well, I'm assuming you're out of supply in the 4090 because it's off the site entirely.
Yeah.
Or maybe the prices are just too high to even acquire at a wholesale rate. So today is the 5th, right?
Yeah.
Black Friday. We're still within that 15-day of Black Friday.
Yeah.
So are you saying that if someone paid the 40, I think it was $40.99 for the same deal that was $39.49?
If it's the same spec PC,
So
we just
those customers right now, if they want to get that $100 difference rebated back to them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And is that going to be a cash refund, or is it like a store credit? Is it?
I would imagine it's a cash refund, not a store credit.
Okay. So if you're watching this and you bought that more expensive deal that was cheaper at the start of the weekend, you have 15 days. At this point now you probably got about 10 days. So I would look into that. Okay, let's talk about the personal data collection. I think there's two issues that were really the biggest issues here. Because rental PC aside, it's up to the consumer to determine if that makes financial sense for them, right? It's a bad deal, personally for me, long term. Even near term, I think outside of 1 year, you've already more than paid for the cost of the PC. So in a later section here, we'll talk more about my thoughts on that. But the personal data collection side. The main verbiage there, obviously, was to be used as the operator sees fit.
Right,
How did that
super
ever
broad.
make it in there?
Yeah.
Because that you know as well as I do. Anyone that collects information that is valuable to third parties that want to advertise.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there's a way to explain that one away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're welcome to try, but I'm not sure.
I don't think there is beyond that. It was absolutely written way too broad, and it unfortunately created this perception that we were now going to take this data and potentially sell it.
And when you add, like I said, you can't even get to the fact without providing an email.
Yeah. It just builds on. I get it. It looks bad. Yeah.
So you are on the record though saying NZXT has never sold third-party information or first-party information to third parties.
No.
Okay. Because you know if that comes out later, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a death sentence.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I would be like.
Because the thing is, I honestly feel like if the agreement had just said NZXT can provide your email to third-party advertisers, there would have been some pushback, but I don't think it would have been anything like this.
Yeah.
Because really, it was the verbiage of as they see fit.
Yeah.
Which means anything. That is open-ended.
Yeah. You can imagine the worst things with it. Yeah.
Now, you've removed that paragraph entirely.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that you add a paragraph back saying that NZXT absolutely will not provide customer data to any third party. For NZXT to use it internally for advertising makes perfect sense because the customer is already with NZXT.
And also this kind of underwriting process, obviously, is like if you don't know, how are you going to how do you know if this person is going to be...
I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised given how long NZXT has been in business because that kind of stuff, that's like contract writing 101.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm assuming NZXT has a legal department that goes over this stuff.
Yeah, and again, right, this was Fragile's contract with the end customer, but again, right, like...
Yeah, but you can't hand that off.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
It's your name on the service.
100%. We have to take full accountability for it.
The next thing being the credit card processing.
Yes, yeah.
How in the heck did that get pushed forward without an ID verification?
Yeah, so it's super...
Because I would not be surprised. I'd love to see the statistic. It's impossible to ever know. But once that went live, I want to know how many people tried fraudulent transactions knowing that it wasn't being verified.
Yeah, after that. So that was very, very super rare instance, and just to put a percentage point on it,
that's human validated, right? A human validates that. So a human somewhere made the decision
to ask.
Let's push
exactly without asking. So
has that been addressed?
100%, like that. Yeah,
So there has been a discussion internally,
oh my God, it was
not just on a management level, but with the party involved.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I want to give you the percentage point just so, and again, it's like everything. Even if it's like 0.1 whatever percent, you still got to try to do your best to address it. 0.08%.
0.08?
Yeah, percent. And I can give you all the data.
And that's of all sales?
Yeah, of all sales. Of all people who got approved and did not upload ID. And that's like, should not have happened, right?
Does the ID verification process only happen with the subscription, or is it with expensive purchases as well?
When you do a standard ID verification process, like we ask for your ID address and stuff like that, like standard purchase, yes. And if you do Affirm financing, Affirm has all this stuff. That's all standard.
Yeah, Affirm's very well set up for that.
Yeah. Obviously, there's like, but Fragile has their own process, and they have, to your point, human beings that run the process to ask for ID, etc.
Was that underwriting that took place where the ID was not verified? Was that NZXT or Fragile that processed that?
Fragile processed that, and when we looked into the reason why it got approved, and this is not excuses, this is because it was like an Amex card, and they're like amazing credit, basically don't no fraudulent activity on Amex cards, and again, it shouldn't have happened, right? So I know we've addressed that.
So it mentions on the website, and Steve showed on the soft inquiry that one didn't show up. I know Gamers Nexus uses a pseudonym for all of these types of secret shopper type deals.
Yeah.
With the fact that there was no real person attached to this, and it got pushed through that an ID is bad enough, but the risk involved with NZXT/Fragile moving forward with a subscription with a not real person that also got a soft inquiry, how does that happen? Because the soft inquiry is about making sure that the person is good for the subscription, because they could walk away with the PC after 1 month, right?
Yeah.
So
we don't want that, right? So
how does how's that soft credit inquiry work?
Yeah,
or soft inquiry work?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of inner workings of Fragile, and I would be more than happy to have them explain it, because I don't know every single thing they do in terms of their underwriting. But all I can say is we've been around from, this service has only been around for a year, and I think this was March, when this happened, there were still things we were learning, and even around underwriting, that were in place. So these were some of the things early on in the days that got through. But to your point, to my point earlier, these are things we are really addressing as 100% requires your photo ID, right? So it's not.
Yeah, I mean, because the look looks like NZXT is doing whatever they want with the information. Now, obviously, things have changed since Sunday, but at the time that expose went live,
NZXT has potentially could do whatever they want, right? We have not.
You have to be judged on what you can do, or what you legally are within bounds to do.
Sure.
So that's the assumption, is that you're going to do it. So the concern is that if they're collecting information, and then they're not even verifying buyer information, it just looks like a identity theft heaven.
Yeah, and we don't. Yeah, again, super small percentage, but even that's not okay, right? Because to your point, there's a percent. There could be a potential there for identity theft.
We talked for a second about the fact that long-term renting doesn't make financial sense.
Yeah.
The program you've explained, both written and verbally, is that it's intended for somebody that wants to give gaming PC a try. Try before you buy, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
However, you incentivize long-term relationship by offering the free 2-year upgrade.
Yep.
So that kind of sounds like talking out of both sides of the mouth, if that makes sense. Because a little math, you already know, but a little math here, the Player 3 Prime is $3,049 as of today. At that 2-year upgrade, you've paid $6,216, or more than 100% additional, right? 200% of the cost of the PC. You get no credit for it. You have no ownership in it. And does that upgrade continue at the same price you're paying? Because you said it's a free upgrade, right? So I'm assuming.
So like you were mentioning earlier, once you're locked into that subscription, your price doesn't.
So in your explainer video, you mentioned that it's good for trying it out short term, see if it's for you. But you understand that promoting 2-year upgrade is incentivizing the long-term relationship, which is very profitable at this point for both you and Fragile. So
I would say that is assuming fraud isn't fraud and people stealing and return breaking like stuff isn't rampant, and there's a lot of
risk, obviously.
Right?
I'm
And
sure
a lot of
you've already had
returns.
instances where customers stop paying and don't return the PC.
Yeah, or return it and it's like a home appliance that comes back, and it's not the PC. Or like a lot of returns, right? Like not everyone, to your point, will stay on for 2 years, right? So what do you do with those returns? They come back and you got to do the refurbishment and everything and put it back out there. There's like, it's not 100% of people.
Well, so at a $3,049 customer-facing price, I don't know what the markups are or the margins are on these parts. If a customer sticks around for 2 years at the Player 3 Prime, $6,216 have transacted.
Yeah, so I would say like for the folks,
you've clearly made up for several PCs on that one.
Yeah,
right?
but yeah, I think you acknowledge there's definitely room for fraud and risk to trying to run a business like that, right? Because you're sending these expensive PCs to people for an upfront cost. And I would say like the people who want the short-term benefit, like 2 years out is really far for them, so they're like, it's very different. What we're seeing is of all of the people who are subscribing, there's like so many varying use cases, and you can throw kind of all the short-term use cases into like one bucket, right? Like I'm home for the summer. I want to try to be a content creator, right? Like my PC broke at home, and I don't have the money to like buy a brand new PC right now. I'm going to build one eventually, but I need something right now. Like there's like one bucket of people who are thinking nothing. They look at that 2 year upgrade. They're like, who cares? It's too far for 2 year in the future. And there is like another bucket of customer who are actually looking forward to the 2 year. And you can do the math. You're right. Like you do the 2 year math. It's like it is expensive, right? And what we've heard from these customers is like, I have purchased a PC before, and I don't like the idea like having to own it and deal with it when it breaks. Like like after 1 year the warranty's out, and if it breaks, and like I have to like try to fix it, etc. Like they don't like the idea of having to own a PC, or even the idea like they have to research the part like every 2 years. Like, and I don't have the breakdown.
We can't compare a PC to a car.
Yeah.
Because cost of ownership on a car is obviously a lot more than a computer.
But I'm just saying it's rooted in this idea.
But this is a $3,000 warranty at this point.
Yeah, I'm not arguing it's not expensive. It is expensive, right? I'm just saying there are folks who still find the value even though it's expensive.
I think that's why the major pushback here is that if you've bought into this program that long, there should, you mentioned a car. Even a car leasing has an option to buy with credit that the lease that you've already paid in the lease that does apply towards the cost of the vehicle. Not the full amount. It doesn't. But there's at least options to where you have equity in the money you've spent. We can compare it to rental properties and cars, but those exist because they're such expenses. People don't have the money to buy. But let's be real. This is a computer. What I find interesting about this is, in your video you mentioned, I think 5 times, it's you don't own it, you're not going to own it. But are you aware in the acknowledgement, in the agreement, it mentions owning, and that you can. Do you know that? Because I'll read it right now. I'm interested, I'm kind of curious as to why Steve didn't mention this, because his screenshot shows this, but it says, if a subscriber seeks to, let me back up. This subscription is not a rent-to-own program. Okay, that's the first line. You can't argue with that. It's clearly stated. At no point will subscriber own the rental devices or other services provided under the subscription, even if subscriber payments aggregate to more than the collective retail price for the services, which at this point is 1 year. 1 year average seems to be about what it would take to buy it if you were to just save the money instead of renting it. If the subscriber seeks to purchase their rental device and or other services in connection to this agreement, operator may, but is not required to, extend subscriber an option to purchase their rental devices and any additional services which operator chooses to include. Operator may provide a discount on such rental devices based on operator's estimated value of such items. So there's more to the agreement, we'll get there in a second, but it's stating, if I'm a consumer renting, I want to buy it, I can reach out for a buyer option. You don't have to do it. You could offer one, you could extend one. You may even discount the price of it because of how long we've already been renting it. So that's clearly stated, right? it then goes on to say, operator may provide discount. Oh, I read that. If subscriber exercises any such option, the operator shall be immediately relieved of any and all operator's obligations connected with the sole rental device, aka warranty, right? Upon subscriber's full payment, the exercise such option, as well as payment for any other unpaid balances due to the operator, subscriber shall no longer be liable for any future recurring payments associated with the rental device. So I bought it, I'm not paying anymore. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And shall have the full rights, title, and responsibility to the rental device purchased. Ownership.
Yeah.
Operator makes no representations and provides no warranties associated with rental devices purchased by subscriber pursuant to this paragraph. Subscriber shall be solely responsible for all procuring all necessary licenses and materials necessary for the continued use of the operation of the rental devices from the operator, including not limited to software licenses, consumable materials, etc. It's written. There's an option to own this.
Yeah. Yes, and I think that is not again, right? As I mentioned,
This sounds to me like it's something Fragile has in there that NZXT isn't aware of.
Well, so very early on in the program, we definitely had like one or two cases where people really wanted to like just outright, and we did really one-offs, right? Because again, the intent is not for this to be an ownership program. And like, there's rent to own, like broadly, is something we talked about. But I think individual states, there's like a lot of policies around this. It's not something we can just do, right? And I think it's something we're willing to explore and look into. But like but early on in the day, we did provide in very unique cases the ability to, and I think that's why that's there. But it's not like the intent of the program.
This needs to be either
right?
a blanket statement, yes or no.
Yeah, no, it's you don't.
But you're describing one-off situations where you allowed it, or Fragile, whoever makes the
in the
decision.
past. Yeah, in the past, we do. Yeah, it's not a ownership. It's a rental program.
I get that.
And
even this building, I lease and I have the option to buy. So I feel like there is one of the biggest fixes you can do to this entire program is if there is a threshold that's met, option to buy. At that point, you've recouped your cost.
Yeah.
Fragile's recouped their cost.
Yeah.
Right. 1 year is all it takes to recoup the retail cost, which has already exceeded wholesale. Right.
Yeah.
That's the fix here, Johnny, is giving people the option to own it. So the problem is you talk about buying it for the summer or a year or whatever. You, of all people, know it is not easy, even an upgrade, to send your system in, get back a fresh one, and get set up and running again. You know, most people who are renting a PC, they're not going to know maybe how to image a drive or how to back it up and get it all running again with the new system. So it's literally a reset button and starting over. Anytime we build a new test bench, we're just like, oh my God, we got to go through all these setups and stuff. But just knowing after 24 months alone, you're more than double paid in on what that PC owes. Everyone is, as far as I'm concerned, and you could say, I don't agree with you, and that's fine because I'm opinion-based at this point. You've made your money hand over fist. Fragile's made money hand over fist on the cost of that PC. The risk is gone. Fraud is no longer a problem with that unit.
Yeah, but you know, as an aggregate, right?
And there's no risk to you anymore. Why wouldn't you want to give the consumer the option to just own it, whether it be a balloon payment or something? Again, another option to say it's a bad deal, but even a bad deal is better than no deal. What's your consumer? Put yourself in the consumer perspective. Step back from being CEO of NZXT. What's your honest response to that?
Yeah, and I mentioned we've looked into it, and it's just if we want to do it, you kind of want to be able to do it for all users, right? And the individual states have like laws around.
Then the agreement basically omits those states. There's agreements all over the place that say not applicable in these 5 states or whatever. There's options to you.
Yeah. I mean, we will absolutely look into it. Right, we absolutely.
Because I mean, it sounds to me like one of the major justifications for the high price is you're kind of charging everyone for the likelihood that there's going to be attrition or loss through fraud, right? And that exists in all business, right? Loss costs are baked into all consumer costs.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
But I think this is the branch. I think that the industry is really trying to extend to NZXT and Fragile here is option to own is really all is looked at here. Now, yes, a firm is not an option for a lot of people. Usually, I think a firm is usually about a year-long type of note process. I've not looked into it in a while, but my point is, I know NZXT and Fragile are not in the business of being lenders.
Like, yeah, or you would just use your firm, right?
But you kind of are once you start the subscriber program, because you've taken on the risk, which is the same liability exposure a firm is opened up to. The difference is a firm pays you all up front, they take the risk. Once you started a subscription program, you're now in the business of lending, essentially. You are lending a product temporarily.
Yeah, we're lending the product. Yes, you're right. The product is being lent. Yeah.
So it could have been a great third option for people to get into PC. And if you really want to, in an industry right now, which I feel is truly struggling for many reasons, this is the stuff that hurts it, not helps it.
Yeah. We definitely have discussed it because we've seen a lot of folks, so people will obviously leave the subscription, right? So we'll call them, hey, why'd you leave, etc. You're like, oh yeah, I'm ready to buy a PC. I'm ready to build a PC. I'm like, man, why go buy one? You just, we got one there, to your point, your data's there, and we're trying, for us, it would be amazing to just have you just own it, right? Because right now it's rent to only. If they're ready to buy it, they basically would have to return it and then go buy it. Right.
That doesn't have to be the case.
Exactly, and that's what I mean.
There's easy fixes to this, and I guess I don't understand the resistance to that idea.
I think
honestly,
beyond
I feel like it's an arrangement between NZXT and Fragile that may not be public, and knowing what because they're buying parts from you, right?
Yeah.
I can't. I've tried to look at this for the last 3 days from so many perspectives to try and understand the real pushback, and the only thing I can think of is it becomes an endless revenue source with parts that can just be sold through subscription over and over and over. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because if somebody wants to resubscribe, a PC has been returned to Fragile, but they resubscribe through you, but Fragile already has the parts and they're not buying parts from you.
Yeah. That goes back into, once it's refurbed, right, obviously.
But it honestly feels like a racket at this point. And what I mean by that is you're now have made money on that system. The relationship between Fragile and NZXT is a parts purchasing relationship, which you explained at the start of this interview. But now they are reselling through the subscription service that again. So if it gets resubscribed through the NZXT website, but the parts aren't being sold because they were returned parts, how is NZXT making money on that?
On the resold part.
On the resold part that's been returned.
Yeah, so after the resold parts return.
Going old for the truck, because that is a very loud truck. Or a plane, I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so you, obviously there's cost to be recouped, so whether it's the operational cost or the cost of the part, right? And after that.
After 12 months,
it depends, it's all different specs, et cetera. Maybe it's early return, so then they're stripping, it's not exactly every customer subscribes for that long, and for sure they don't, right? They don't.
Do you have any data on what the average length subscribe?
I mean, it's only been around for, I can tell you only up to a year, but I don't have the exact data point because it's only been around for a year. It's a little bit less than a year, actually. It's super early, right? But definitely it's not 100%. It's a lot less than 100%, right? So there's that. So there's back and forth. There's costs. But the best way to think about it is, after all of the costs are recouped, then there's we get a little bit of that rev share of the subscription costs, right? Of that.
So you're getting a part sales and a rev share on all of it?
Yeah, we get a little bit of upfront because that's kind of the agreement. We will discount it a little bit for
Is it
Fragile.
A percentage, or is it a flat?
Of the rev share at the back end?
Well, because you have different subscription rates, right? So
it's a percentage. Yeah, it's a percentage. Yeah, it's a percentage on the back end.
Are you able to say what that percentage is?
I'm not, because the business agreement is really complex, and I would say we get a portion, a small portion of the percentage.
There's one other part of the agreement that I just thought people should be aware of if they're not reading it. NZXT essentially has a hold harmless clause in the agreement, including negligence. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. I know most agreements include this. My concern, and I'm only giving this to you as food for thought, gross negligence is, a consumer cannot waive their protection from gross negligence. There's a legal difference between negligence and gross negligence, right? So if a consumer were to return a PC, and what I'm about to describe kind of plays in this feedback I'm going to give you from a customer here in a minute. If a PC is returned and processes break down sometimes.
Yeah.
We've received stuff that was used before from a vendor that was a return product that did not get cleaned. And they're like, there's data on this. NZXT is basically stating that they cannot be held liable for any damages, obviously physical, IP, whatever. The damages is very broad and it's very laid out. I didn't quote this one on here, but if that information were to get sent back out to another customer and it has data on there that's sensitive, let's say banking information, financials, whatever, NZXT basically has it written in their clause that, oh, you can't hold us responsible for any of that. I'm just curious as to your thoughts on what happens if a customer receives a PC that has sensitive information on there when you have a clause in here that says it's not our fault.
You're talking about sensitive information from...
well, if something exists on a PC that was returned and then resubscribed to someone else, but the wipe process broke down. At some point, it didn't get wiped as it's supposed to. And that's why I mentioned we've received things before on accident that had information on it.
Yeah.
So the hold harmless clause where the consumer has to agree to waive their right to holding NZXT accountable even for negligence.
Yeah.
So I looked into this.
And this, again, this is the Fragile and customer agreement that you're talking about, right?
Well, it's yours too, because they're purchasing through you. So NZXT holds responsibility for this as well.
Well, once the agreement is with Fragile, I just want to make sure that you're talking about the agreement you sign when you get a subscription. Right?
This is everything I've quoted is all from the same user agreement.
Yeah, and that's exactly. So that is Fragile's agreement with the end customer. So, I don't have the legal expertise to say if this is the norm or this is way overboard, but I don't.
I did look into it. This is a state by state kind of thing.
Yeah.
As you know, it has to be for it to be a broad agreement that does not itemize states, it has to be as tight as the tightest regulation for any state.
Yeah.
Not all states allow companies to absolve or waive, allow the customer to waive their right to protection from negligence from the operator. So I'm suggesting you look into that.
Yeah. Okay. Because absolutely.
There's situations. It's very unlikely.
That situation you pointed out is if it's with real potential.
Well, I assume people renting PCs again are not the most tech savvy. They may not go through the proper process of removing their sensitive information. And if that process of removing that information were to break down at Fragile and it ends up in the hands of someone else,
and goes out. Yep.
This verbiage basically says, "Not our fault. Can't sue us."
Yeah.
Right. No one's going to ever put an agreement in there that says you can sue us, but unfortunately, consumer rights step in at that point.
Yeah, I get it.
So I'm only brought this up as a final point to mention you should definitely look into that on a state-by-state basis.
No, I get it.
To protect both the consumer. I'm all for the consumer protection. Obviously, on the business side, you were about business protection, and rightfully so. There's a lot of IP to protect. I want to read to you this customer testimonial. It's 3 months old from Reddit. Again, it's third-hand information. I'm not even saying second-hand, it's third-hand because it's the internet.
Yeah.
But I'll just read it. This is an old thread, but I'm going to highlight my experience with NZXT Flex. The first computer I received was damaged, so obviously it was a return, or potentially in shipping. They said the wires were pulled out of the motherboard and the GPU wasn't protected. I'm assuming the Instapack. Mind you, it was FedEx's fault, damage, okay? I immediately contacted Fragile and told them and requested a replacement. It took 3 weeks to get a replacement sent. Okay, time frame, I guess. Now we're looking at nearly a month of subscription with no PC. Got a replacement sent and a call from upper management to get it initiated. Let me back up. It took almost 3 weeks to get a replacement sent and a call from upper management to get it initiated. So they're saying they had to escalate this to even get it to start. I immediately returned the computer and shortly after a replacement comes. The replacement was in great condition, but it wouldn't post. I immediately contacted Fragile again and shipped it back. Again, this shipping back and forth tells me this person's not a savvy user, right? So now we're dealing with all this shipping back and forth in time.
Yeah.
Immediately after the first unit was received, I was contacted by, and I'll redact the name, I'll let you know off camera if you want, saying, I tampered with the unit and removed components. being the GPU was not seated and the damaged motherboard and the SSD was missing. So this is the first computer that was sent that was damaged, right?
Yeah.
They were also inclined to contact the police. I can't validate this, but then say I'm responsible for $250 worth of damage. This has got to be the worst experience I've ever had with a company to make mention that I was involved in some type of fraudulent activity where there was no real quality control.
Yeah.
They subsequently banned me from their service and decided to take the $300 I paid, and I never even got a booted computer. So it doesn't take a lot of searching to find similar stories. This is a bit of an extreme one. There's threads all over Reddit
Sure.
prior to this. I wanted to make sure that what I was reading wasn't post Steve's video on the first.
Yeah.
I want to make sure these were prior
Yeah.
to that, so there wasn't influence.
Yeah, like an influx of
Right.
misrepresentation potentially from like, yeah.
So I just thought you should be aware, because I'm finding a lot of instances of breakdown of communication on Fragile side.
Yeah. We were discussing kind of this, and we were like, hey, what made? So I could see like Fragile's, the CS person probably thought, man, this user's. Let's assume they got the PC back, it was actually missing parts. They're like, oh, they took it out, whatever, right? But what may have happened is maybe when it left us, Premium,
Well, it sounds like it
potentially
could
may
have
have
been
shipped it.
It could have been a breakdown in that process.
Yeah, and
I
then now
described, where the
Fragile-
drive was supposed to be switched, it wasn't,
Yeah.
etc.
Or it was a brand new PC that actually was, again, in most cases today, 80%.
Because it hasn't been long
negative.
enough for them to be returned
Brand
yet.
new, yeah. Well, and there's just
Or not a
pretty
lot of
much.
returns.
We don't. So it's a bit not very long. It's a very low count.
Okay.
Like subscriber count is not very big, so it's like most of it is new PCs. You just don't have that many PCs out there, right? So so the process breakdown actually is happening at Premium. Maybe on the build line, like
Well,
these things do happen.
this was a Flex PC, so that would be Fragile.
Well, if he's asking for replacement, that came from us again, right? Because that would be a brand new PC shipped from us, right? He's like, hey, I need a replacement. So they placed another order with us. We ship out from us. So it could have broken out on our end.
So why wouldn't replacements come from Fragile? Or would they come from you because of the
Because they don't
parts
have
supplier?
any. They don't have any supply. There would just be a new one, right? It'd just be a new one.
So when a PC is returned at the end of the subscription to Fragile, does it go back to NZXT?
No, it goes back to Fragile, right? It's in their whole pool. But if they can't fulfill that order because they don't have any more.
So then it comes from the
Yeah.
other builder.
Yeah, exactly. Premium, right?
That almost
Which is-
seems like a little bit of a...
It's like brand like. It's
Well,
80,
that seems like a liability conflict for non-Fragile builders at that point. Because now if their build quality or whatever...
I mean, they're building, and a percentage of these builds will have issues with them, and those issues.
There's a lot of moving parts to this, Johnny.
Yeah, which comes back to we've learned a lot from this entire experience on figuring out, oh man, like that data around the build quality and the things issued there needs to be passed on to Fragile, so they don't automatically assume it's like the end customer took something out, and like this whole thing around like you should be able to open up the computer and make sure like everything's there, right? Like, and if you didn't, like there's just a lot of moving parts.
Because it definitely sounds like this. So this post was 3 months old, as mentioned. He doesn't mention when this happened, but the post is 3 months old.
Yeah.
It
We looked
sounds
into
like
that one. Yeah.
So you are aware of the story.
I think we looked into that, and that PC actually came from City Ministry that we shipped to them. So it actually was with our builder.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it almost sounds like if there were parts missing, that it was already a previously owned PC.
Yeah. No, it could be, unfortunately, a mistake at our builder. Which again, in general, like statistically, better quality.
What are there any changes coming to the program that you've already discussed? I know it's only been 3 days.
Yeah.
But the feedback publicly is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Can you speak right now to any changes to the program that you're looking into?
Yeah, like I've shared a lot of them in that video and on the blog, but like I think we sum it up in a couple big things. And forgive me if I'm wrong because I'm kind of off the cuff. Like I think there's a lot of stuff around that legal stuff we need. Like,
yeah, because I did not give you any prep on what I was going to be asking. I thought that was important because I didn't want curated answers.
It's honestly, it's like why I was thinking about asking, but I was like, I don't want to ask because I don't even want that to be like. And I hope you could explain. I got none of this. I got no prep for this.
Right. Yeah. That was the intent. Was to. Like I said, I'm surprised you even agreed to this interview because it was intended to be.
Yeah, I could see the worst things happening coming out of this interview, right? So, but I felt it's important to be here. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I said, we personally internally believe in reclamation, reconciliation.
Yeah, I appreciate
it's
that.
possible.
Yeah.
This is a very steep climb, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Friends, I just personally, I don't like the program.
Yeah, I know.
Personally.
I know.
And I'm mad at myself for even mentioning it in any of our ads, to
Yeah.
be honest. That's on me for not having looked at these agreements to go, okay, you know what, this is bad, I'm not going to promote that. And
Yeah.
we've had to change internally how we operate moving forward for
Yeah, I
this very reason. But you have to, I mean, I don't know how many subscribers you have for this program.
Yeah.
But I hope that you take the feedback that you're getting publicly and from other folks you may be discussing this with to really try and turn it into a positive. I still fully feel that option to own at the end of
Yeah,
it.
it would be awesome. It would be great to have.
Because there's a way out where you have still something for the money.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, I mean, this isn't a house.
Yeah.
You know, house rentals, that's a totally different story.
No,
car leases, totally different story.
And
Because even in a car lease, you're responsible for the repairs and such in a car. Like car leasing, it only makes sense to people that switch often. But again, that's also for people that maybe won't qualify for a car purchase and or just don't want to flat out own the car.
Yeah.
But again, this is an appliance, not a major purchase like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say the example I almost prefer to use is like if you went to like Hertz and you decided to use like a car rental for whatever reason, for like months or a year at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
still think that's a hard
Like,
analogy because people tend to rent a car very, very short term. Right, no one's going to rent a car for 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, and by
That
the
would
way,
that would be financially as dumb as, in my opinion, renting a PC like this for 2 years and paying more than double what it's worth.
Yeah. And all I'm saying is, I get that it's expensive, but I think it's worth acknowledging that there are people who understand it's expensive, like totally understand that it's expensive and can like do the math around it, and see there's some value there. And maybe it's like a small portion of the audience and we can't get our heads wrapped around that, but I just want to acknowledge it because I see it in our surveys and I see it in our conversation with people who see that value, and it's kind of this like idea around I don't want to think about it. I just want to pay a monthly fee and then you do my upgrades. And it's again, what we've come to learn is there's all sorts of different use cases for this that aren't really quite the same as the traditional way of owning a PC, and I don't know. I don't want to be in a world where like someone can do the math and it's expensive and they say they're okay with it, and we say like you're like you're dumb or whatever. I don't like that's not.
Well,
my belief,
you're a
right?
for-profit business, so that thinker is exactly what you want for business. You want someone that's just going to throw money at you and not care.
Well, I want someone to be happy with our service and they don't feel like they're being cheated.
It's up to
like
the
they're getting
consumer
what they want,
to
right?
determine if the value is there for them.
That's
I'm
all I'm
not
saying,
putting that on
yeah.
the company. You could charge $1 million for the PC. If someone buys it, someone's going to go, that's a stupid customer.
Yeah.
Right? I think a lot of people are saying that potentially about the Flex customers. But I think the only way to really bridge the gap is to, again, offer, which is in the agreement, some sort of purchase.
Yeah, we talked through it. Well, I mean, it's absolutely something we look into, but between Saturday and now, it's right, today's.
Well, I don't think we're ever going to come to common ground on the idea about the program being either beneficial or not. I think there's two camps. You either live in one or not. It's either an okay program and you see the purpose of it, or you think it's dumb.
Yeah.
Either is right because that's a subjective opinion.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, there's changes that can be made that at least bridge some of that discussion. And I highly encourage whoever the powers that be are that designed this program, really look into that. Beyond that, I'm not sure what else there is to say. If there's any final thoughts you would like to give, that's kind of all I had for you today.
Yeah, I mean, I hope. I mean, it doesn't mean anything when I say it, but I hope people can see through kind of us, me being here and the blog and everything, that we're not a evil company. We've been around a long time, and I think like I legitimately do my job because I love what I do. These are times where I definitely don't love what I do. And
do you regret this at all?
This
program?
I would say I regret we didn't think through maybe all the potential kind of things, like the small things, but in terms of like having Flex as an option for the people who use it and enjoy it and see it as a option they didn't have compared to like building your own PC, buying a pre-built, is for me, I don't regret that at all. Like why would I regret offering something that people want? Like we do a survey and we asked the Flex subscribers, how many of you would be disappointed if this service didn't exist? I think it was like 40% or 30%. Like if I shut it down, I would literally be like screwing the customer, right? Like that would be like people would be like very disappointed and like.
Well, you're situationally screwing them versus just financially screwing them.
But and like we can definitely debate that. We can check. We can call every single customer and say, hey, do you feel like you're tied to this machine? Like you cannot get rid of. Like, can we help you? And one of the things we've been. Well,
you can help them by letting them own it.
Yeah, but like, what if
they're
they
tied
don't?
to it because they've now been using it.
Yeah,
like I explained,
yeah,
once your stuff is on a PC, it's a big task to move it to another PC. So they kind of feel stuck in the program, just from the sense of like it would be very overwhelming for somebody that is non-tech savvy, is paying monthly on this, going, well, man, I got to start all over now.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
it really is. And I know you're going to quadruple down on your stance, and I'm not going to budge from mine either, though. But it is a trap. They can become trapped in the idea of a rental PC very easily if they started using it for school or for work, or they become very used to it, you know. And the way they become untrapped is an opt-out agreement and an buyout agreement.
Right.
That's the bridge. You know, and it's up to NZXT at this point now, because we could be here all day debating this.
I know. Yeah,
but it's up to NZXT now to determine whether or not they want to give at least another financially irresponsible, in my opinion, move to now pay a balloon payment at the end of all that. Now you've bought 3 PCs worth of rental, but to have the option. I think that's what people are really demanding here.
Yeah. And I just, again, this use case of that one PC for 5 years, like, is not the intent. The idea was like, upgrade cycles happen, you know, TikTok, etc., and we handle that for you. But I get everything you're saying around the numbers, and we absolutely will look into it. I think it'd be amazing if someone who wants to own and say like, hey, I don't want to just continue paying because I see myself using this PC for a long time. It's super valid, and we should definitely look into it.
Well, I think something that should happen within the next 24 hours is if you're not willing at the moment right now with someone to call up to say, I want to buy this, remove that paragraph. Because anyone that reads that is going to see, you can by case determine if you're going to sell it. And if right now the answer is a hard no, why is it even in there?
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Okay, I think that's wwhere we should end this today. But I do appreciate you coming out, exposing yourself more to the blowback that really is happening right now.
Yeah, I get it.
You know, our relationship and sponsorship relationship totally aside, I think it's pretty obvious. I was coming at this purely from a consumer standpoint. And I felt like I just needed to hear it face to face on what's happening with this program.
Yeah.
I know it's too soon to have any fixes immediately. You've done some things that you've already mentioned by taking out some verbiage. There's a lot more work to do though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So don't hide. Obviously you're not. As awkward as it may be, just be transparent. As transparent as possible.
I'm trying.
And start with the transparency so people understand that. It wasn't even until we started talking that I understood that Fragile is the one doing the program.
Yeah, it's not obvious that how it actually works end to end.
Okay. Well, Johnny, I appreciate you coming by today.
Of course.
That's it. Okay, so there you go. That was the full, about an hour, unedited interview with Johnny Ho, who is the CEO of NZXT. It'll be interesting to see where they go from this. It's obvious if you use public outcry as a gauge. The public's demanding some changes. As I mentioned, there's a lot of verbiage that needs to change in the contract. I was kind of shocked that there's even a mention in here about case-by-case purchasing, which I'll be like right now, I still feel like there's pushback to that idea. But even off camera as we were leaving, I reiterated like that's the only bridge. That's the only possible bridge between a bad deal and an absolutely terrible deal, which is in terms of the pricing. I think, like I said, if you take the Flex 3 Prime, they don't call it Player 3 anymore. They call it Flex PC. So they've already made a little change to try and denote the naming difference. A $3,050 PC costs you over $6,200 after 24 months. And to say that it's intended to be more of a short-term rental kind of a program, but then incentivizing, hey, if you make it 2 years, you get free new parts, because you've already paid for them multiple times over. You paid for the PC you were renting and the new one by the time you get to that point. So I can't agree with the idea of a rental PC. If you look online, you'll find lots and lots of people. This program has been going back to 2023, and they've been getting blowback about this being a bad thing for a long time. Now, he did mention off camera as we were leaving that they have a lot of subscribers. I can't vet that number. I'm not sure they would even necessarily tell us the number publicly for sales disclosure reasons, but if they really have as many subscribers as they're saying they do have, I could see them just ignoring all this and saying it'll go away, but I don't know. They have a component business too, which is going to take a hit, obviously, from this. The AIOs, the cases, the power supplies. It's unfortunate. In an industry right now that I feel like is already just heading for the toilet, to have, it seems like would have been just such a simple thing. Include a buyout option, which shockingly is in the contract. But anyway, there you go. Nothing that was said today matters. I think you guys know that. It's what do the next days, weeks, months hold in terms of changes to make it more pro-consumer. For Johnny to say, I want more people to be in PC, I want more people to be in PC, I would think you'd want them to own it too, and outside of Affirm and traditional cash purchases, I don't need to repeat myself. There's so many ways that this could have been a positive, but we just have to wait and see. So there you go. Comment down below how you guys felt. I can't comment to the genuineness of a lot that was said, because unfortunately there's still a lot that wasn't said because of, I'm assuming, legal reasons and just knowledge reasons. It was until today I was not aware of the way the dynamic worked between NZXT and Fragile, and knowing that Fragile is buying parts from NZXT, and then the arrangement and the subscription is really through Fragile, that NZXT is almost just the conduit to that, and then they get a percentage of the subscription fee. Kind of worse than I thought, to be honest. So, all right, time to get out of here, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.